This is Algebra 1. Today is November 2nd, so put that up here. It is November 2nd, 18. All right, so let's start off with vocabulary. Distribute, we know what that means. Let's go ahead and just do a picture for distribute. If you have a number like 3 and then you have x plus 1, distribute means you are multiplying that 3 by this x. Got a little bit of lag there. 3 times that x and 3 times that 1. That is what it means to distribute. And when you do that, you get 3x plus 3. We know what it means to distribute. It's kind of like fancy multiplication. There are cool little tricks like using FOIL or using a table, but that is distribution. So today we are going backwards with extra steps. So we're not doing too hard of things, but factor is going backwards. It's like the reverse, distribute. Or opposite distribute, or backwards distribute. It's doing the opposite of distributing. So now, if I'm going to reverse distribute, it's kind of the same thing as if I started here with 3x plus 3, and you say, okay, what can I pull out? What could I do to go back to this form? And you say, oh, look, both of these terms in this expression, this is a 3 and this is a 3, both of these terms are divisible by 3. They can be divided by 3. If they can be divided by 3, take that 3 out. This will turn into a 3 outside. And then you say, okay, now I'm going to divide each of these by 3 since 3 is the common factor. 3x divided by 3 is just x. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. And there's how you go backwards. It's a hard skill to learn. We'll do a lot more practice in another unit, but this is just our first touch on doing factoring. Factoring is, again, going backwards with distribution. So I'm going to go through that one more time just to make sure that we have it. I look at both of these terms. I say, I ask myself, what can both of these terms be divided by? I can see that both of them can be divided by 3, so I write my 3 on the outside. Then I write my parentheses. I say, okay, now what is this thing divided by 3? What is 3x divided by 3? That is x. What is 3 divided by 3? That is 1. That's how you factor. It takes time to digest that math to make sure we really understand what's going on there. Okay, so for all of today's homework, here is the procedure. We are going to simplify, group, and then isolate. More specifically, we're going to simplify both sides of the equation. We've already done this before. We know how to simplify both sides. If it has some distribution to do, I will go ahead and distribute it. If there are two like terms, I will combine like terms. I know how to simplify already. This is review. Okay, this is the new stuff. So if there's anything that I was to put a star on, it's this new step, step number 2. Step 3 we've done before. Step 2 is our new step, which might be a little bit different. I mean, we've seen it in a different form. It's going to be a little bit new today. So group all variables you are solving for. Oh my gosh, it's so fun when your phone just randomly decides to update. That was all of you using powers. Yes, I know. All right. This step will be key. We'll talk about it in example 1, but for now, just know that you need all of the variables you're solving for on the same side. There are going to be variables that you're not solving for now, though. So that's going to be the trick. And then finally, you're going to isolate the variable you are solving for. Make sure that you have these notes out when you're working on the homework. It will help you immensely. Looking at the procedure, looking at the example problems. We have 3 examples today. 1, 2, and 3 on the back. That third one on the back is the hardest type of question that I can ever ask you on the quiz or the test. Let's look at example 1. Solve for E. Oh gosh, look at that equation. That equation looks hard. I see E, I see 5, I see T, I see A, I see these random other variables. How the heck am I going to solve for e. It is hard, but you guys can do it. I know that you guys can do it. Let's do this together. So first step, simplify both sides of the equation. Can I simplify both sides of the equation anymore? Go ahead and nod your heads one way or the other. Shrug your shoulders if you don't know. You guys all look like bobbleheads. It's fun. The answer is no. You can't simplify anymore. There's nothing more. I can't combine 3e and 5. Those are different terms. 3te and a, I can't combine those. They are different. There's nothing I can do here. So step 1, check off. Okay, we're on step 2. Group all the variables we're solving for. We are solving for e. So let's find our e's. We have an e here. We have an e here. We need those on the same side. We need to group them onto the same side. So we just choose a random side. I'm going to choose the left or the right. I'm going to randomly say, I'm going to choose the left. So I'm going to somehow move this TE to the left-hand side. So what am I going to do to both sides of the equation to keep the balance to move that TE over with a quiet raised hand? What am I going to do to both sides of the equation? This TE needs to be moved to the left. I see that Sergio knows. I see Andres knows. I see Fernando knows. Sergio, go for it.
Minus TE.
There it is. Write it down. Minus TE on both sides. And here I go. Now I have 3e plus 5. That was the original side. I haven't done anything. I haven't touched it yet. That's still the original left-hand side. I'm going to wait to make sure all pencils stop so you can really identify that. Nothing has changed on that left-hand side yet. But now we have this additional minus TE. Here it goes. Minus TE. Okay. Now I have the correct left-hand side. I'm going to write my equal hand side or my equal sign. And these TEs and TEs, they cancel themselves out on the right-hand side. I am just left with an A. So thank you, Sergio. Let's come over here to give, I want to go to class, Sergio, 50 XP. That's my first step. Okay, I don't want anything without an E. So this 5 doesn't have an E in it. I'm trying to group all of my E terms. This is not part of an E, so I need to get rid of it. I need to move it to the other side. How am I going to move this 5 to the other side, Monse? Subtract 5 on both sides. You said that correctly. Minus 5, minus 5. When I do that, this 5 and 5 will cancel each other out. I'm now left with only E terms on the left-hand side. Go ahead and write it ahead of me, and then you're going to check in 5 seconds as Mr. Sindel writes it to see if you got it right. What is that left-hand side? What is that right-hand side? What does it look like? And here it is. You should have written 3E. That was still left over. There's no more 5, and you still have this minus TE. That was the left-hand side. Those 5s cancel out. Now I have my equal sign. I still have my A on the right. And I now have a minus 5. That is our new equation. We have just completed step 2. That is our new step, grouping all of these E terms. Now comes that hard part up here where we learned how to factor, how to reverse distribute. I need to see one thing that is factorable, one thing I can factor out of both of these terms. Can anyone see what both of these terms have in them? What do both of these terms have? Andres?
They both have an E.
They both have an E. It's that simple. Whoa, crazy. You didn't see that, did you? Andres was the only one that saw that. No, you guys all saw it. Okay, they both have an E, so I'm going to factor out the E. There it is. You factored it out. What goes on the inside of your parentheses now? I'm going to divide both of these terms by E because I'm factoring it out. So 3E divided by E is what, Andres?
3.
Yeah, there it is. It's 3. You just divided by E. There's no more E left. I took it away. So, Andres, you fully get your XP. Thank you. All right, someone else. What happens when I divide negative TE? If I divide this whole term, negative TE, divided by E, what do I have left? Fernando.
T.
T. Close.
Negative T.
Negative T. Negative T. All right, there it is. I factored out an E. Rewrite the rest of the equation. Equals A minus 5. We factored out an E. We took that E out. And now we're almost done. This isolate step is also kind of new, but there it is. I'm trying to solve for e. E is by itself almost, but it's being multiplied. It's being multiplied by this 3 minus t. So what's the opposite or the inverse operation of multiply? Shout it out.
Divide.
Divide. I'm going to divide both sides by this 3 minus t. I'm allowed to do that. That whole term, that whole expression, 3 minus t, I can divide both sides by it. Here I go. This is what it looks like. Divide this side by 3 minus t. This whole 3 minus t. I'm going to divide this side by 3 minus t. When I do that, this 3 minus t cancels out. I'm just left with e. There it is, e by itself. And on the right-hand side, you don't need to simplify this. There it is. Just rewrite this expression. It's a minus 5 divided by 3 minus t. It's that easy. It's the same steps over and over again. We group all of the symbols that we're looking for. We were looking for e's, so we grouped all of the e's on the left-hand side. Everything that was not an e, we shoved to the right-hand side. Everyone is okay with that first step? We can nod our heads, yeah. That first new step. I guess it was technically the second step. Then the third step was to isolate. We did that by factoring out an e and then dividing by whatever remained. It's going to be the same thing over and over. Let's see another example. Example number 2. Now we're solving for x. Let's group all of our x's on the left. All right, I need a quiet raised hand. What is going to be my first step after I'll just tell you right now, I can't simplify this any farther. I can't simplify this any farther. So what's my first step now that I'm grouping? I'm trying to group all of those x's. Is there anyone new? Jose? Minus rx on both sides. Minus rx, minus rx. And here it goes. I have my bx plus 6x minus rx. That's on my left-hand side. On my right-hand side, those rx's cancel each other out, and I'm just left with 8. Making sure that everyone understands what's going on. Make sure you really understand what's going on because the homework is going to be difficult if you don't know what's going on. Next step, someone help me. I have things that don't belong. No, I do have things. Yeah, everything is grouped now. I need to factor. The next step is to factor. Can someone help me factor? Sergio, go for it. X times the quantity of B plus 6 minus R equals 8. There it is. X was the common factor. X was here, X was here, X was also here in each of those 3 terms. Each of these 3 terms had an X, so I wrote the X on the outside. Then on the inside, I divide each term by X. Bx divided by x, there's no more x. 6x divided by x, there's no more x. Negative rx without the x is just negative r. That's how we do factoring. Hopefully this is too simple for you. That's my goal. If you're like, this is easy, Mr. Sindel, you're giving yourself in your heads a thumbs up. This is great. The next and final step after I give Sergio his XP is to do what? Andres.
Divide both sides by b plus 6 minus r.
There it is. Divide both sides by b plus 6 minus r. Divide that side also by b plus 6 minus r. And that will cancel out that whole term. And I'm just left with x. I have isolated x. It is now by itself. And Andres, can you help me read the right side? What should I be writing?
So on the right side, it is 8 divided by b plus 6 minus r.
There it is. And I should have been boxing my final answer in my last problem. I did not do that. So come back up here, box that final answer. There it is. Make sure you really understand how to do example 2 because example 3 is going to be another level of difficulty higher. All right, Andres, there's your 50 XP. Any questions on example 2? Anyone want me to slow down and not move on yet? No one's raising their hand. Okay, we're on to our final example. Example 3, solve for A. Uh-oh, now we're using step 1. So far we've been starting on step 2. Flip back to the front. So far we've been starting with step 2 of grouping. Now we have a problem where we have to do step 1. All right, so someone help me do step 1. See, Sergio's ready, Jose is ready. Only 2 people out of a classroom of 14 are ready. Need more hands, more hands, more hands. What am I going to do to simplify both sides? See Fernando and then Andres already. That's more hands. I like that. Jose, go for it. Distribute the negative r. So what should I have on the right hand or on the left hand side? You got this? Yes, yes, continue. Minus, okay. Minus AR, there it is. You could have said AR or RA, both of those would have been correct. Yeah, good job, Jose. And then the right-hand side stays the same, XA plus 37. We distributed the negative R. Make sure you're distributing the negative with the R. Okay. We just did step 1. I need to do step 2. You can do step 2 all at once. I'm going to show you guys a mini shortcut. You don't have to use a shortcut if you don't want to. But here's going to be the mini shortcut. Brand new stuff. Let's see how fast we can go here. I know that I need to move this XA to the left-hand side, so I'm going to subtract an XA from both sides. Minus XA. At the same time, the same step, here's a shortcut. I know that this minus 4r, I need to move to the right-hand side because there's no a here. I'm solving for a. There's no a there, so I know I'm going to have to move it to the right-hand side. So on the same step, I'm going to say, go ahead and add 4r. Add 4r. I'm doing a ton of things at the same time to both sides. You're allowed to do this because it's still balancing the equation. Here I go. Those 4r's cancel each other out. Those xa's cancel each other out. It's always nice to cross them out so you can see what's actually left. What's left is this minus ar, minus ar. What's left is this minus xa, and that's equal to, now what's left on the right-hand side, 37, and this plus 4r. What a cool little shortcut. It saves space also. And you don't have to use it. If you don't like this method, you're like, ugh, too many things at once. I don't see what's going on. Don't use it. It's okay. What's up, Andres?
Would it be negative RA?
Negative RA. You can use negative RA or negative AR. So go ahead and everyone write this on the side. Negative AR is equal to negative RA. If you want to know the property, why this is true, this is called the commutative property of multiplication. It just means you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to switch those two. They're the same thing. Yeah, that was a good question. Thank you. That's such a good question. I'm going to give you XP for it. All right. So what do I do next? Someone help me out. Get some XP. I have all of my A's. I'm searching for A's. All of my A's are grouped on the left. What am I going to do? And then help me do it. I see Jose is ready. Fernando's ready. What am I going to do? More hands. More hands. What am I going to do? We're so short on time. Sorry. Fernando, go for it.
Negative A.
Negative A.
And then
Parentheses.
R and then R
plus X. And then rewrite the right-hand side is equal to 37 plus 4R. You have it correct. So Fernando, there's your XP. And what time are we out of here today? We're out at 37. We still have 11 minutes left of class. Okay, we got this. We're doing good on time. I want to give you time to work on the homework too. All right, next step. Someone else, someone new, help me out, help me out. We're so close. We're trying to get A by itself. Oh, yeah, Cohen, new hand. Divide both sides by r plus x. And what do I have on the right-hand side then, Cohen?
37 plus 4 divided by r plus x.
Oh, I did a typo. Does someone see it? And then on the left-hand side, Cohen?
Negative a.
Negative a. There it is. Yeah, because these two cancel each other out. Where's my typo? Extra credit in your extra credit tracker if you see it. Go for it, Cohen.
You did r plus r.
Yeah, right here. Go ahead and log it in your extra credit tracker. I'll give you the XP as well. It should be r plus x. I'll do it in a different color so you can see it. R plus x. Somehow Mr. Sindel said it correctly, but I wrote it incorrectly. So Cohen, thank you for participating, getting the correct answer, and also catching that teacher error. And it is an extra credit point in your extra credit tracker. All right, am I done? Done?
No.
No. Why?
You need a box your answer.
Oh, that's part of it. Yes, I do need to box my answer, but there's another reason too. So Monse, I'm still giving you your XP. What else? There's something else that I'm not done with. I need to box my final answer, but this isn't my final answer. Someone tell me why. Monse, let me give you your XP before I forget.
Okay.
What else am I missing? Jose?
You can divide 4r and r.
Not quite, but good attempt. You still get your XP. Oh, I gave you wrong XP because my mouse was not working. Just a freebie there. I need to solve for a. I have, negative a. I need a positive a. It always has to be a positive a. It's always a positive variable. So, how do I get that? How do I get a positive a over here? What can I do to both sides? Fernando, go for it.
Divided by negative a.
If I divide by negative a, that'll give me a 1. But you're really close. You're really, really close. Let's make sure that I don't misclick Mr. Sindel. It's doing the thing again. Dang it. Okay, whatever. Andres.
Plus a.
Another good attempt, but if I do plus a, I'll be left with 0. I need to just make a negative into a positive. How am I going to do that? There's the correct one. Jose, you want to take a guess at it? No. Sergio, you want to go for it?
Negative.
Times a negative. Yeah. What type of negative should we multiply by? 1. Yeah, negative 1. Multiply by negative 1 on that side. Multiply by negative 1 on that side. Now I will get my final answer of positive a. A negative times a negative is a positive. I always think of the stand and deliver scene when I think of that. Negative times a negative is a positive. I might make you chant it next time. Then I'm going to multiply this negative 1. I can either multiply that negative 1 to the top or the bottom. I'm just going to randomly decide. I'm going to choose the top. If I multiply that negative 1 to the top, I'm going to have to distribute the negative 1 to both of these terms. When I distribute, I'm just going to write this out because we're low on time. This is going to be negative 37 minus 4r. The bottom stays the same. Bottom, nothing happened to r plus x. And as Monse says, it's not complete unless you box your final answer, Mr. Sindel. There it is. There's a. That was a hard example. I will note this also. On Fernando's step up here where he factored out the negative a, if you instead factor out a positive a instead of a negative a, it will save you this step of having to multiply both sides by negative 1. But it's still mathematically correct to do it this way, where you factor out a negative a. It just might save time to factor out a positive a. So go ahead and make a note here. Faster if positive. Positive a. On that step right there. Any questions on the notes? All right, go ahead and write your summaries.